In this particular video, I have decided to do something that I rarely do, and that is to write bullet points out. That way I can more concisely convey the message. Normally, I just speak and whatever comes out, comes out. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm unscripted, unfiltered, you get the point. Basically, I call this pillars of the red pill. No pun intended. This is a checklist of how impactful all of these particular institutions are to the average man. Just like Neo, if you're an average guy who is working, paying taxes, wanting a family, just wanting a normal life, these 5 institutions are the most impactful in the particular order, from the most to the less impactful. Now, it's not a one-size-fits-all, as I stated in the previous video. Your family might be super religious to the point that you can't watch Disney movies and you can't listen to rock music, and then religion would be number one. But if you're just an average person, working your 9 to 5, paying your taxes, it's not as important. Number 1 is women and reproduction. The primary goal of any species, whether it is the microscopic bacteria, to the wild wolves, to the Homo sapiens, is reproduction. The reason you're here, the reason I'm here, is because our ancestors reproduced. Pretty basic concept, right? 99.9% of all species that have ever walked the earth have become extinct. Every species must reproduce. It's natural. It's all part of it. It's all part of the ecosystem. Basically, I'm just here to tell you what is. There's a store that used to be in my town, a local store called As Is. That's how I am pointing this out. It's as is, not what I want it to be, not how I emotionally think it is, just how I think it is. I'm calling balls and strikes here, the good, the bad, the ugly. For thousands of years, women needed men. They needed men to go hunt while they stayed home in the nest. They needed the man to go off to war to save the civilizations. They needed the man for protection from other tribes. They needed man. Even in the present day, when you could still make a living as a working man in America, women would marry men for their ability to provide. My mom married my dad in the late 80s. Not because she was totally infatuated with him, but simply because he had his own place, he had a car, he had good health insurance, he was able to provide. But now, as society has progressed both technologically and intellectually, women do not need men anymore. I remember in school growing up, and these teachers would always tell us women don't need men, which is true. In the millennial generation, for instance, there are more women in college than there are men. Women who don't have children, it's always been this way. If you compare a woman who doesn't have kids, who has the same level of education as a man, who worked the same amount of hours as a man, who took less vacation days off than a man, she actually made more than the average man. But people don't factor that in. They just say women make 50 cents or whatever it is for every dollar a man makes. When in all actuality, in the millennial generation, it's totally disproving that theory, because women They're not having kids. They care more about their careers. As a result, they're actually making more than the man, which means that they no longer need the man. Due to capitalism, mass production, you get the point. Now women are going for only dating guys that they want. I'm a libertarian, I don't care, it is what it is. The average guy like Neo, the average guy like me, they don't care about them. They just don't like guys as much as guys like them. They just don't. It's a fact. I'm sure if you're like me in your late 20s, there are tons of girls that you graduated with from high school who are hot, but they don't have a man. You're wondering why. It's because their standards are super high, and frankly, they don't like men as much as men like them. But think about this. When you go to a grocery store, or you're out at the mall, wherever you like to gander around, if you see guys, typically, they'll say under their breaths, man, that girl has a nice ass. And then if there's a cute thing, if there's a cute baby, you'll hear the woman say, oh, look at the baby. But you never hear a guy say that. Women's natural instincts are nurturing. Women would much rather babysit a baby than have sex with a hot guy. Women would much rather have a cute kitten than a hot guy. It is what it is. That's why right now we're seeing a shortage in the dating market. You have way more of a supply of single men, but less of a demand for it due to our changing system. But women, they don't just like cute things, they fetishize it. I'm friends with a couple. I'm friends with both of them. When I talk to the guy, it's kind of like, how's your son doing? He's like, oh, he's doing good. He's starting school. That's cool, man. And then, how's the ball game last night? Did you hear about this or that? Whatever. But his wife, she's constantly sending me photos and videos and updates all about the baby. No offense, but I'm not part of your mom and wine group. I'm not your girlfriend. I don't have a vagina. I like the kid. He's a good kid. I'm just not as interested in his day-to-day interactions. And then the last thing, no woman is going to love you unconditionally other than your mom, your grandma, and your sister if you're lucky. Every other relationship is conditional. A woman's going to want you if you can provide for her. It is what it is. The second pillar is banks and loans. It has to do with survival, putting food on the table. Basically, I'll summarize this. Our economy runs on paper rectangles. What are those paper rectangles based on? Up until sometime in the 70s, our currency used to be redeemable in gold. However, Nixon, who was just a placeholder at the time, any other president would have done this, ended the gold standard, which essentially meant that now dollars are backed up by nothing but our faith in it. When you go to the grocery store, you exchange your dollar for your toothbrush or your groceries. Both sides have faith within that dollar. You have the court system, which backs that up. You have the police department, which backs up disputes. All it is people's faith, the system, and the ability for the system to control the system, if that makes sense. These banks, basically, they do something called fractional reserve banking. You give them $100. They don't keep that $100. They loan it out to other people. Those people get a car loan, they get a home loan, they get a loan on college education, whatever. They have to pay that back plus interest, and those banks profit from that interest. That's how they make their money. Most of the largest corporations in the United States are not producers of real tangible goods or services. Automobiles, restaurants, whatever. They are banks who make money printing money out of thin air loaning it to you at interest. It's a paper rectangle that's backed up by nothing more than your faith in it. The third is education. In school, everybody is required to go to school. As I stated in the previous video, you're taught to regurgitate, to repeat facts and formulas that the teacher tells you. In life, wouldn't it be great if you didn't know how to figure something out and you could turn to the back of the book for the answer? It just doesn't work that way. Some school is necessary. You need to know how to read and write. You need to know basic add, subtract, division, multiplication. But once you get to 8th grade, this is sort of my idea. 8th grade, 9th grade, you're in the process of having to figure out what you want to do. The whole premise of school should be not to teach you geography, not to teach you that the capital of Chile is Santiago, not to teach you that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, not to teach you that Grover Cleveland is the only president to be elected in 2 non-consecutive terms. Who the hell cares? When your car's broken down on the side of the road, when you're going to work, you don't got to know all that shit, right? They should be preparing you so that when you're out of school, you're ready to produce. Think about it though. You go to K through 12, even for a job as minuscule as flipping a hamburger, you still got to get more training. But we're supposed to believe that the school system is there to train you to become a good member of society. And if you want more education, instead of just getting to go through that education in 9th grade, they should say, if you want more education, you can continue it. But if you want to go to work, go to work. Instead of having to go to more school, and then you got to pay back those loans to the central bankers, you should be able just to figure out what you want to do. That's education. Religion. What I mean by religion is I believe in a God. Here's why. I believe based upon the science. If the earth was any closer to the sun, it would evaporate due to radiation. It would eat it up like the atomic bomb. If it was any further away, it would freeze over like the Arctics. It's in the perfect position. Perfect symmetrical position. The sun is not even a large star compared to the rest of the universe, yet it is bountiful enough to provide us enough heat. The way that the earth rotates 360 degrees on its axis makes it perfect for us to grow vegetation. It never gets too hot where it kills us, even though it sure as hell feels like it sometimes here in the South and the US due to the humidity. It never gets too cold where we freeze over, where it kills us. Not to mention, we have enough oxygen, nitrogen in the atmosphere to sustain life. So far, we're the only planet we know of. Mars has too much gas. Most of our universe is held together by dark matter, dark energy. Even though the universe is expanding, it's staying together like a balloon. All of it is symmetrically staying together. Scientists can't measure dark matter. They can't measure dark energy. It's nothing tangible, yet it's there. It's a name to describe the unexplained thing holding the universe together. I can go on and on and on, but you get the point. And the sea has bacteria at the bottom. Just like when the oil spill was around, that little microbes is what they're called. It ate the bacteria and it keeps the oceans clean. They're like the ocean's made. The whole ecosystem, the way the ecosystem works. Honeybees, they provide all these products. You get the point. I'm not here to give you a science lesson. You can do that on your own. I believe that there is a creator. Now, when you start saying that he cares, there's a couple of things that you've got to consider. There are two events that really sort of changed my perspective on it. There was a guy I graduated with in school. Well, I didn't graduate with him, but I was supposed to. He lived on my street. I never was the best of friends with him, but I would talk to him sometimes when we were walking up the hill off the bus after school. I hung out with him a little bit. I never was his greatest friend in the world, though. He was a normal guy, just a normal kid, normal mischievous kid. Wasn't any meaner or any better than anybody else. Even before his junior year, he got cancer. He would pray to God. He would always go to church. He passed away. And when I asked my pastor why an all-loving God and all-knowing God would let that happen, he said, his ways are higher than our ways. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not even that nice of a guy. I'm a normal guy. If I could heal somebody with the snap of a finger, like an all-powerful God could, to get rid of a tumor, I would. And then I've been dealing with an issue that still hasn't been resolved. I like to keep things on the DL, as they like to say. I don't want to go into my own personal struggles. But I prayed multiple times. I even fell asleep praying. I read the Bible, all this other stuff. Nothing. But supposedly, God hears all your prayers. He cares so much for you. He has a grand plan. I came to the realization that either one, God doesn't exist, but based upon science, I believe he does. Number two, he doesn't care. Number three, he's an asshole. And number four, he has better things to do. So I combined 2 and 4. I don't think God picks winners and losers. I just don't think he cares. My hypothesis is he created us, he, she, whatever, and now they're sitting on their hands watching things transpire. Not just me. Think about this. Not Egypt, but parts of Africa. Sorry, I was watching a program about Egypt, and that's why it was on my mind. But parts of Africa don't have navigationable waterways. Therefore, you can't deliver goods like you can to the US because we border 3 different bodies of water, or like Great Britain or France. If you don't have navigationable waterways, you can't import goods. If you don't have a good climate, you can't grow food. In Nigeria, not Nigeria, but there's a country called Nigeria, it's so hot that when the raindrops hit the ground, they evaporate. In Sudan, people are living in poverty. Why is it that God has blessed Europe more geographically with better soil, a better climate, access to waterways, but innocent kids in Africa starve to death? There are countries in Africa which all that stuff happens. Why would he let that happen? Why would he let a normal guy get Parkinson's and suffer for years and years and years? I get it, in life we're going to face trials, but why would you let an innocent person suffer from something? But you're an all-loving and all-knowing God. And if he really is all-knowing and all-loving, supposedly, like if he really cares, he's an asshole. You know, at best, God doesn't care. At worst, he's an asshole. Or he picks favorites, you know. Some people, they live their lives, they have no problems. Other people, no matter what they do, they always get fucked. But if you just say God doesn't care, just random events happen, that would explain why some countries are wealthier than others. Some individuals are better looking than others. It would just be luck of the draw. Last but not least, if you don't live under a rock and you don't think the government is corrupt, you're too stupid, quit watching this video and never ever comment. It's just so obvious, right? Everybody knows the government's corrupt. The Bidens, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas have all enriched themselves while selling out our country, while starting fake wars. I'll make it quick. There's a lot more you could get into. Bush stated that Saddam Hussein had ties to Al Qaeda. Not true. Google right now. If anybody can show me evidence that Saddam Hussein had ties to Al Qaeda, I'll send you $100. I really will. I'm a man of my word. Number two, he said Saddam had WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, which caused a pretext for invasion. There's no evidence. You can Google right now. If you find any evidence Saddam had WMDs, I will send you another $100. That's just the surface level. The government's corrupt, but the government being corrupt is not going to affect you as much as you wanting to get pussy, you wanting to buy a home and a car, you getting an education to help you get a better home and a car and more pussy, and if there's a divine guy upstairs that cares. All those other things are more impactful on your life. The government's the government. Just know they're corrupt and then live your life. But that is the red pill. In the next video, it's going to be a combination. I'm going to talk about red pill rage, and then I'm going to get into the black pill, because red pill rage is the first symptom of the red pill. Then it leads to either coping with it, going back to the blue pill, or going to the black pill.